Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Bike Chat. We are very excited moving along in the holiday seasons are well past us, and now we are very close to that springtime window. Well, not exactly. Folks, you are in store for an exciting evening of Bike Chat. As I said, my name is Jonah DeSqually. I scope live stream about all things cycling related, craft beer, and more. Also, co-host of Craft Beer Bab, which leads me to this guy. Hopefully that square is pointing to the right guy. None other than Mr. Gunnar Soros. Gunnar, hello, good evening, and how are you tonight,
Good
sir?
evening. I'm doing wonderful. It's a beautiful night here in Rochester, Minnesota, and just grateful to be hanging out with you guys and talking about bikes. It's one of my favorite things to do. I was just thinking about that. I was doing some chores before jumping on,
Right.
and I was just thinking about how I don't know how long ago it was that I was working in bicycle retail, but so I was working in a shop, and I used to love it because especially like Saturdays, besides the fact that you're missing a ride, but
Oh yeah.
you get people coming into the shop and people are talking about bikes and they're talking about cool things and stuff that they want. And I figure this kind of fills that for me a bit without having to go and work at a shop. And really my family probably enjoys that I'm at home and not, because I could probably go down to the shop and get a night job or something and work a couple hours a week or something just to get the discount. But I know when I've talked to my wife before, she's been like, are you sure you want to leave the house, especially in the winter? And, you're going to get in the car and you're going to spend a couple hours. I'm like, yeah, but, I get to talk about bikes. Well, now this fills that. So I am just grateful for you and for this show and this medium to be able to do that and talk with not just you and not just people in town, but people all over the world. And I think it's just great.
This is true. It's a great way to live vicariously. I tell you, for a lot of people that are looking to get back into it, as I said, the beauty of social media, man. You and I can both agree, and then again, I'm sure yourself is just the banter and dialogue that's starting to pick up behind Bike Chat, which is pretty exciting. And it's
Absolutely.
cool because it is nice because Gunnar, I know that you've done a fantastic job getting folks on board with your show, Craft Beer Blab on Tuesdays. Which is a good one, by the way, folks. If you get a chance, check that out. But as I said, same thing with Bike Chat. And funny story. I literally had two people ping me today on LinkedIn. They're like, "Hey, man, when can we get on the show?" And I mean, it's there's a lot to be said about that. And Bobby, again, a little bit of background information, and for the audience out there is in terms of like, let's get into story time. With the advent of live streaming. Again, Meerkat and Periscope and things like that. I was always very envious of Meerkat, and unfortunately, being an Android user, I didn't really have the access to it. So I was hearing all these stories about Meerkat live streaming, and I mean, it always fascinated me. And I'm like, wow, this would be great. Fast forward to the Periscope, which was purchased by Twitter, and then all of a sudden it made it accessible to the Android users, and all of a sudden the the mini TV station at your fingertips was there, and I found this to be just truly amazing. The reality of it is that, as you can see, just talking to Gunnar and myself, I mean we pretty much have a one-track mind when it comes to talking about all things cycling related and craft beer and so on. It's like this is kind of marketing to a certain degree, but am I going to sit here and say I'm a live stream expert? Am I a social media market expert on this and that? I'm just here as like the guy or one of the boys to talk about cycling. And Gunnar and I had connected, but the irony is that one day I was thumbing through just thousands. I don't want to say thousands, but a significant number of live streams about just things that I had no interest in. How to get 10,000 hearts and 10,000 followers, how to be the best Instagrammer, why your Pinterest page sucks. I mean, and then all of a sudden I see this dude riding his bike, and I'm going, oh my god! I'm like, you gotta be kidding me! I'm like, there's actually, it's like I literally felt like I was the last person on earth running into somebody, and there was Gunnar on Periscope, and he was periscoping from his bike, and I'm like, oh my god, this is great! I'm like, somebody else gets it, and isn't necessarily there to hawk their marketing shtick or whatever. It's like, let's just talk about bikes, right? So we connected, and I kind of pitched him on. I said, hey man, I got this great idea. I said, I just would love to take this form and make it about bikes. Gunnar, you talked about like the shops, and Bobby, you can relate to the shop guy. The person walks in and is like, does that bike come with 2 wheels and a seat? I mean, man,
Yeah.
we ask, we know the dumb
Sure.
questions, but working in retail, you get those questions, and it's like, well, yes, these bicycles come with round tires, and the air is free. But my point is, all of a sudden, we started, collaborating and said, hey, let's get BikeChat going, and it was like a little bit weird as far as trying to get it like dialed in the dynamics and figuring it all out. But as I said, with Gunnar and myself, and we were able to kind of massage BikeChat to what it is. So anyway, that's kind of a backdrop with how kind of BikeChat got involved, and of course Gunnar had long been Mr. Homebrew and craft beer guy, apparently, holding out on me on his YouTube channel. By the way, subscribe to that; it's got some really good videos. But anyway, we collaborated on that, and I co-host Craft Beer Lab, which is really fun. And
Nice.
it's gotten out of hand. And by the way, I'm not gonna spill the beans. There's some really good stuff coming up on Craft Beer Lab. Hey, shout out, folks rolling in. Scanachi, what's going on? Great to see you. Thanks for all the shout outs on social media. Appreciate that. And again, man of the hour, what is going on? Mr. Dan Blomberg. Good to see you, Dan. Hey, Dan, thanks a lot, man. You guys helped me out. This Tuesday was just disastrous trying to get me online, and that's a whole nother story. All right.
Right. Well, that's the beauty of live streams. I mean, that's one of those things. That was an interesting challenge.
I know. Yeah. Thank you, Dan. He says I'm looking better. I feel better. I feel like I need a little makeup on the shine here. All right. So let's get into this. So this part of the show, folks. Again, of course, we're going to be talking to Bobby Streeting of the folks at Alto Cycling. And we, in this particular part of the show, we usually roll into some hop topics. The pun on hop as in bunny hop. And there's 3 really good ones. I know Gunnar and I had been volleying back and forth with some good ideas. Gunnar, you had sent me something from our good folks at Oscar Blues. Now, you know that I am a huge Oscar Blues fan. I got to hang with the crew at the UCI World Cup here on the East Coast at Windham Mountain. And those guys are nuts. But one of the things that you may or may not know, audience, is they not only do awesome beer, craft beer, they make skis, by the way. They make kick-ass bikes. They make BMX bikes. They make gravel bikes. They make all kinds of bikes. And this was like literally something that just came about over the past 6 to 8 months where I was like, I didn't know that. So Gunnar, you shared a video with me was it CEO, right?
I think it's the CEO. Yeah, I'm going to find that link and throw it up there.
Put that link up. So while he's doing that, the folks from Oscar Blues, and Bobby, you're familiar with Oscar Blues? Bobby?
A little bit.
So Oscar Blues, there's the link right there. Gunnar shared it up. Thanks so much. So the folks from Oscar Blues, apparently one of the conglomerates of Oscar Blues is like heavy duty into cycling. And by the way, Gunnar, I actually do know the story behind how their bikes got started. So apparently he had a bike, got done with a ride, and was like having a cold brew as far as the story goes, and his bike got ripped off. So he got pissed. He's like, "What's up? You there?"
No. Yep.
You said anyway. So
I was just saying, that his bike got ripped off. Yeah.
So his bike got stolen, and then you know what he said? He said, you know what? The hell with it. He's like, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna build my own. So that's kind of where, Reeb, which is beer backwards, bicycles came from. And like they pretty much started out like onesies and twosies, and they just said we're going no holds barred. They went right for the titanium. So, and I don't know, Bobby, have you ridden a titanium bike?
Oh yeah, it's been a long time, but a titanium Lightspeed almost 10 years ago.
Nice.
It is, folks. If for the audience out there, if there's anything you want to treat yourself to, I would definitely say I would get yourself on a titanium bike. Anyway, that's what they do. So fast forward to this video link. If you watch this video, it's talking about fat bikes, and they're like talking about getting fat and getting thick, and it's a very funny play just on a lot of different things. And again, if you haven't watched it, you should probably give it a watch. But thank you, Gunnar, for the share. And what was your take on it? Because I was cracking up the whole time I was watching.
Oh yeah, I thought it was hilarious. They're very tongue in cheek. I mean, you got to figure these guys are making beer, they're making bikes, they're doing things that are fun, so it's great. And so I think their marketing and their their personalities shine through in it. So when they announce, okay, well, we're going to be doing fat bikes, and so then they get into tongue in cheek of, is it fat? What are we doing? So I think it's great. It was a great way for them to get that video out, and I think it just goes to show that they're a really cool, great company. Again, on a side note, and more on their beer side, they've just sent another shipment of water to Flint, Michigan, because of the issues that Flint is having, and so they're sending canned water. So they're taking up cans and using their canning line to can water and send it to people that are obviously in need. So they got their head and their hearts in the right place. Oh, there's that guy still in Maui.
Aloha.
I'm not jealous.
Looks beautiful.
Those are fake palm trees in the background, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah.
I just wanted to jump in here. Hey guys, it's good seeing you. Great stuff.
See, Bobby, these are the people hanging. He's like, JRA, man, this is Maui. No
Just comes right in, makes you jealous, heads out.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I'm gonna jump out. Great talk. It's good seeing everybody. We're gonna rent a chopper.
All right.
But yeah, no, they're huge in the advocacy, and it's funny because, like I said, I've run into a couple of reps, and they're great people. But one of the biggest things I can tell you is that it is spot on with what you just said about the advocacy and the give back. I mean, their culture, which is really what makes your show Craft Beer But on Tuesday so great, is that craft beer culture. It's people that really, they really give a shit. They care, not like some obvious companies, but. At any rate, so yeah, that was a good one. I really appreciate that. And boy, I mean, someday I would love to be able to actually ride one of those instead of just kind of check one out. So now, speaking of craft beer and things like that, if you drink too much beer, Gunnar, what usually ends up happening to you? How do you think you feel? That's a cool.
Well, you get up in the morning and you usually have a headache and you don't feel so good, and maybe you're dehydrated. So I don't know. What are you leading at here? Usually have a hangover.
Yeah, pretty much. There's an article that I was gleaming, and I didn't send you a link. It was something I caught out of my last minute. I was heading to the computer. But apparently riding, I don't know if you know this, but riding, they say riding a bike cures a hangover. Now, there's 5 tips that they included. Now, you gotta read this tongue-in-cheek, but
depends on how hard you're riding, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's the first thing. That's the first thing. But they did say if you are riding your bike and you are hungover, they say frequently sip water, because in theory, if you're hungover, you're already getting on your bike dehydrated, which is a good point about it. So they said that's part of it. But even before that, they say a good breakfast of eggs before. And one reason why so many people, when they're hungover, and I don't know, it depends, is if you are hungover and you're craving eggs, there's actually amino acids in the eggs that help combat that feeling of being hungover. So eat eggs.
Nice.
The other interesting thing they talked about is, have you folks ever heard of like Noons or your Camelback Elixir or anything? Man, I don't know about you guys.
Absolutely.
If you are ever hungover, drop one of those things in an Nalgene bottle and chug it, and you feel like $1 million. So aside from your bike, these people are on to something. But they did say chew on electrolyte tablets or take some type of drink that's got an electrolyte in it, which I feel across the board is a good idea anyway.
I think the electrolyte mix would be easier to get down than the eggs, for me, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
So the other obvious one is just to simply wait, because usually if you're pretty hungover, like you said, Bobby, it's probably not a good idea to get on the bike and just rip roaring. I mean, how many of us have been on that ride where we've had like that one person that thought they could, hang out like a rock star all night and get up early for that group ride, and the next thing you know, they're over in the bushes eating a petunias. I've been on a bike, so they just said plain and simply.
Yeah.
And then the last one is here's an interesting point. They said you actually getting on to a bike or really doing any kind of workout for that matter, technically you don't sweat your hangover out. Like, people are like, oh, on. And Bobby, I don't know if you know this. I mean, this is like legit. I was like, I couldn't believe when I read this because, I mean, I have to say maybe that was a live tale or not, but have you guys ever believed that? You think that was true?
I used to kind
Sweating
of
out
think
the
that.
hangover.
Yeah, I used to think that, well, so like it used to be well, when I lived in a warmer climate, it was like tradition, you go out, you'd party up New Year's Eve, and then New Year's Day you would go out and do an epic ride because you want to get rid of you would want to get rid of the hangover.
Right.
But I guess that's not true, right? So
It is not true.
I feel like it would make you more dehydrated, right?
right.
don't know.
Well, yeah, you kind of
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. There's like, but they said there was a couple links, and maybe sometime next on my notes I'll put it up. But basically they just said that literally like going out to work out, they say does not necessarily like burn off any excessive effects of being hungover. Bobby, you nailed it. I mean, if you're hungover, you're dehydrated. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah,
you are
most likely.
dehydrated. How much more sweat? So so those were the five. I think those are the five things. I think a little tongue cheek, but I mean, all kinds of fun and good. And that was hot topic number 2, audience. Hot topic number 3. This one, Gunner. This is all you. You pushed this one over to me last minute. There's an interesting app coming out. You wanna elaborate on that a little bit? You sent the link.
yeah. So I checked this out. Let me throw the link up. So there's an app coming out that's kind of, from what I can tell, and I downloaded it and I've kind of used it, but I don't have any friends on it yet, and I don't think there's anybody in my vicinity that is using it. But it's called Yazda, so Yazda app. And how I found it was on Reddit, and I think they just came out with it very recently, maybe as recent as today. But what it's supposed to do is help you find rides, or if you want to be a ride leader, create a ride, and also have a social element to it where you can invite people on rides, or say you're in a new location, you're on vacation somewhere, and you want to go on a ride. You can log in and you can see if there's rides in your area. So it's kind of an interesting thing. Like I said, I downloaded it, I installed it. It looks straightforward. There's no rides in my area currently, plus the fact that it's the middle of winter, so not many group rides going on right around now. But it seems like it would be a really cool idea. And it is kind of geared a little bit more towards mountain bikers. So looking for mountain bike rides to go on. Check this out. So I put the link in there. I think it's really interesting. It has some potential to kind of be a game changer. A lot of times you go out on a ride and it's like last minute, and you think, okay, well, I want to go out with friends or something, and what do? You call people up, you text your mate, you go on Facebook or Twitter, and you tweet out, and inevitably everybody comes back and says, well, yeah, I'd love to, but I can't. I can, but only at 4:00, and you're going out at 2. So it's that you're still going out and not riding with anyone. So you go in, log into this app, see if there's anybody that's putting on a ride at the time you're going, or just throw it out there. And hey, if somebody shows up, then they show up. I think it's kind of a cool thing. So
now, again, what isn't that like? Isn't it like Meetup? Are you familiar with Meetup? I mean, I'm members of a couple mountain bike communities on Meetup, but I mean the thing that sucks about Meetup is you get these people that like post these rides that are supposedly ride leaders, and then like last minute they like renege on the ride, and I'm going, hello,
right,
you are the ride organizer. What are you doing? It's like
exactly.
I mean, like literally, I've had a couple rides I've been like traveling to, and I get like a push notification from my phone. It's like wah, wah, wah. I'm like, whatever, I go ride anyway. But like that, to your point though, I mean that really turned me off. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here, like you said, I'm trying to be members of a community that's supposedly like, hey, let's ride bikes, and it ends up being a disaster. So That's
Right.
definitely too much. So I would, maybe it is probably the next generation because I can tell you that Meetup is more PC based, and obviously Yazda is more mobile, and clearly everyone is moving more towards mobile. At
Right.
any rate, so that
Well, and I do have
you know,
one last thing that I
yeah,
wanted to
please,
bring up,
please.
and I just kind of came across it, and I don't know, maybe it's a pet peeve, I guess, but rider safety, I think, in interacting with cars, I just happened to come across a link, and I'll try to see if I can get the
Oh
YouTube
yeah,
video here.
was that gnarly YouTube video you sent me?
Yeah, so and
Oh, you gotta
we
check
get
that
this all
out.
the time, and I'm sure that
Gnarly.
that almost everyone that's ridden has been in situations like this where,
Oh,
you're riding along, maybe you're riding with a friend or something,
right.
and a car buzzes by or literally clips you just barely or brake checks you,
Oh,
and it's just, I don't know. To me, it's just terrible that these things happen, and I know that they're going to happen, and I fell for the trap of, okay, well, I saw this video and I started reading the comments, and of course that's never a good thing, and then responding to a couple of comments, and then you get into this little argument match with drivers that have no clue,
right,
and they're trying to say, oh, well, cyclists should get off the road, and but it's just,
right.
I don't know what the real solution is, because uh, I've been riding for a long time, as you have, and I've been involved in different advocacy groups, different things to get share the road and all kinds of stuff. And to me, I don't know, maybe I'm just being a pessimist right now, but it doesn't seem necessarily to help. I mean, we're constantly getting, on the same subject. Last fall, I was out on a ride, and somebody actually shot me with what are those? It's like a pellet gun, but it shoots a plastic, like BBs. I can't think of what
Oh,
they are.
airsoft.
What?
Airsoft.
You
Yeah.
Airsoft.
got you
So I'm
Yeah.
on a
you got
ride, and I got
Come on.
shot in the butt with an airsoft gun, and
That's
Jeez.
brutal.
it was
What the
it
fuck's
sucked.
wrong with these people,
Uh,
man?
yeah, but anyway, so I did stop, though. I did, and so here's a lesson. So here we'll do a positive spin on this. So if something happens to you, call the police right away. Get
Yeah,
them to come
definitely.
out and have them make a report. Or in my
And
case,
shoot them in the ass.
as I was waiting for the policeman to come, he comes and he takes my information, and he tells me, okay, so uh, say we actually catch these people, what do you want to happen? And so what happened was, in the time that I was waiting, they actually stopped this car that had them, and they were gonna do whatever they needed to do with them. So make sure, even if you don't, because normally I wouldn't call. I mean, I've been in many altercations with cars, and people throwing big gulps at you and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah, right.
after a while you just take it, right? And so this one time I just thought I'd call. Maybe if you call more often and do it. And the police officer, the sheriff, actually said, we do appreciate when you guys call, because it helps to reduce the amount of people out there doing it, because a lot of times if you
Right.
don't call, then they're just going to keep doing it. So
Absolutely.
that's my story.
Well, again, it's pretty serious, and Bobby, and I'm sure you can probably relate to this. Same conversation. This could be literally a whole topic, but I do, on a quick note on that, I did have a good buddy of mine. I think back in the day, when I was kind of in high school, and he was, the kids that were roadies that we were mocking out, and then we look back and say, man, I wish I was that guy in high school. He, true story though, he used to do a lot of racing, but one day he was out training, and he actually had the wind knocked out of him with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He was
Holy
like
cow.
riding, right? He was hauling ass, and somebody chucked a peanut butter and jelly sandwich out of him. And think about it, if you're riding
Eh,
and not expecting it, right?
right.
And
Yeah.
it's just, but again, I think to your point, it goes both ways. There's just tons of frustration. I got Facebook for me is a huge, rant fest with myself and my other nerdy friends and colleagues that just they're not cyclists and they don't get it. They're always
Right.
posting just crap on my wall about oh, here we go, more municipality money pissed away on cycling lanes and this and that, and I mean, it's there's two sides to every coin, and I get it, but the thing is, it's like not only am I a cyclist but also a motorist, so like I see both sides of the coin, and I think unfortunately, to your point, and even this was at a couple of the Strava summits where they were talking about, the culture of how cyclists in North America versus European companies or your country, excuse me, react. We blow stoplights and this and that, and take over lanes, and so anyway, just
I've had the majority of the riders that or the drivers that have been buzzing me or something along those lines. Whenever they're confronted or whenever you get a chance to talk to them, most of the time, I mean, at least in Florida and North Carolina, they're somewhat oblivious. There have been cases like you guys are talking about where I've had fishing hooks hung out the window, fishing poles, dangled by you. I've had pennies thrown at you, like a cup of pennies, as you're going up a climb, and aggressive stuff like that. But at the end of the day, like all that aggressiveness, you'll probably never be able to stop. It's just like high school kids who are just going to be assholes, and they're just doing it. And you call the cops and you hope for the best or get their tag. But then the majority would be like a car would buzz me, and it was they never meant it maliciously. It was always like, oh yeah, I just, I didn't see you, or I didn't realize I was that close. And they're, 80-year-old drivers who just didn't mean it, but they're still in a 3,000-pound car that could kill somebody. So it's interesting because how do you fix if you can't fix the aggressive drivers, how do you fix the ones that are just doing it, out of, I don't know, just whatever they think they're doing, they think they're doing it correctly, and it's just
Don,
it's just not the case. So I don't know.
His comment there, if you take a look at the right side there, audience, when you're riding, I keep this in mind. Everything around me could kill me, and I don't know. Gunnar, you said you've been buzzed, and you've been hit by a car.
Oh yeah, I've never been hit by a car, but I've been buzzed. I've been pushed off the road by a semi. I've had a number of things, but never actually hit by a car. So I think I'm lucky there. So
I'm in litigation right now, actually, from being hit by a car in 2014. Yeah.
Between ourselves is obviously we've had altercations with motor vehicles. An audience, I don't know if you're tuning in now or watching this on replay, but once you get into an altercation with an automobile, okay, Gunnar, you not necessarily as much of a severity, but Bobby, sounds like you definitely have had some challenges. I mean, I've literally been literally popped right out of my pedals and off my bike, hitting a vehicle in broad daylight during what we consider rush hour traffic. And it's one of those things where I hate to say this, but prior to that happening, Bobby, and I don't know if you can relate to this or Gunnar, is I thought I was bulletproof, and I did not ever think, I'm serious, I did not think for a minute that I was going to get hit by a car. I was like, what happened? I'm like, oh man, wow, that guy got messed up and broke his leg, and and all of a sudden, my buddy and I were just going for a normal training ride on like a Wednesday. And this gal just stopped, looked at us, and then like literally said, "Oh, I can make it," and pulls right out in front of us, and we literally got T-boned. Stuff starts getting hush style over the hood, and I mean, you just get this WTF moment. You're like, you're kidding me? But to Don's comment, there is absolutely. I mean, I tell you what, I look at every single thing on that road like it is going to kill you, because Bobby, you said it, Gunnar, you said it, is, when you are wearing Lycra shorts and a jersey and a gloves, and I don't give a rat's ass how good your helmet is or your shoes are, you ain't got dick against a 3,000-pound car. So
it's interesting because I went my whole career as a bike racer thinking like, I'm a pro bike racer, I can avoid most things. You know,
Right.
if a car does something crazy, I can avoid it, and I'm pretty sure of that. And it wasn't until my 9th year racing full time where I got into a situation where I just couldn't avoid it, and the car ran the stop sign in my neighborhood. I was 100 feet from my house.
Right.
I had finished training for the day. I had gone out. It was 2 days before the national championships, and I was rolling towards my house at like probably 18 miles an hour. And the car comes through the stop sign, and I try to go around it. I try to avoid it, and he hits me, T-bones me. Sounds like your situation, and broke my collarbone, broke some ribs. You know, going into surgery, and you're like, man, if I feel like no matter what happens, I can avoid it, but it's just one of those situations where if he mows you over,
not much.
You're like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
But yeah, again,
yeah.
Well, and see, that's the funny thing too, is that, so then what is it? The number one complaint, anytime you read articles or in this case, this video, the number one complaint from drivers is that cyclists run red lights or don't stop at stop signs. And it's like, I can sit there and I can go to almost any intersection in town, and probably within an hour, I could probably count the times that cars roll through stops or don't stop. And so it's like, well, and and then the other thing is, oh, well, cyclists have to obey the rules just like cars do. I'm like, well, I'm more than happy to obey the rules like you do. So when I come to a stop and I think that it's safe, I roll through. How is that different than you just blowing through a stop sign? In addition to, and I'm guilty of this when I'm driving, is I drive over the speed limit. We can't go over the speed limit most of the time on bikes. I mean, well, maybe Bobby, you can, because you get into a 30-mile zone, you can get into time trial mode and just blast it. But
not anymore.
But for most of us, we can barely hold 25 miles an hour sometimes. So we're not going to be breaking speed limit laws, but yet it's okay for car drivers to. And like I said, I'm guilty of it. I drive faster than speed limit when I drive, but it's like everybody says, oh, you have to obey the law, and I was like, well, sure, and just as you should be obeying the law. And most of the accidents happen because you're breaking the law, not most of the time, cyclists, I mean, yeah, there's the rare instance where a cyclist runs a red light and gets hit by a car. And yeah, that's terrible. That's, and obviously he should have stopped. But I don't know. Don't want to stay on this soapbox for too long, because
you definitely, to Bobby's point,
it is.
That was, whatever, a spitting distance from his home. Just got done, crushing a workout. Like he said, you're like totally in the zone. And then somebody just like rolls up on you and just like squashes you like a fly. You're just like, man, it's frustrating. And I mean, again, you don't, right. This would be a whole other topic. So, all right, audience. Well, hey, listen, let's get to the whole reason why we are on this edition of Bike Chat once again. Hey, tell a bird, share this out. There's a little tweet icon. Let the audience know we're out there. And if you have any friends, colleagues, or associates that are into anything cycling related, send them here to Bike Chat Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with myself, Jonah DiPasquale, and the host of the most, Gunnar Soros, right there at your service. Also a great show, by the way. You want to check them out Tuesdays. I co-host Craft Beer Blab. A lot of fun. We'll talk about that a little later in the show. So, folks, with us now is a gentleman by the name of Bobby Sweeting. Bobby Sweeting, toting a fantastic company hailing out of Sarasota, Florida, which is clearly where we are not right now. Bobby and his good cohort, I believe it is Sean Gravis. Did I say it correctly? Bobby? Gravois?
Gravois. I think technically it's Gravois in French, but
on Bike Chat. So again,
exactly.
they'd been racing pro since 2006. And then looks like obviously through a number of things, you guys have came around full circle to get into the Alto Velo mode in about December of 2013. So I'm excited because I think, well, Gunner's probably excited. He's like Mr. Tech guy, and he's all about this. So Bobby, welcome to BikeChat. Thank you so much for joining us. Audience, give them some love, and they're on a number of social platforms. We're following them on Twitter. We've been tweeting it all day, out all day. Dan's got a question for you here coming up in a few minutes. But Bobby, welcome, man. Welcome, and thanks for joining us. What is going on down in Sarasota for starters? No snow.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
We just had, I don't know, maybe a week ago now, the biggest tornado since the early 80s I think in Florida. It was crazy. It landed on Siesta Key, just down the street, maybe a half mile from us. And I guess it carried a debris ball for like 45 minutes. And so that was pretty intense in terms of what's going on in Sarasota. But otherwise, it's been a pretty nice winter. I mean, I live in Asheville, North Carolina for most of the year. But I don't know. I'm still scared of the snow after being in Connecticut for a little bit. So I come to Florida in the winters.
So you guys do wheels, and I've got some questions, and Gunnar, I'm sure you do as well. But let's get into Dan's question. He said he wanted to know, he was looking at your website, he's checking out the rims. Are any of your rims used? I think it's on cyclocross as the rest of that. Let's show more here. So
yeah. Right now we have our road wheels and our rim brake cyclocross wheels as the exact same model. They're tested to an unlimited rider weight limit, and they have the best lateral stiffness in the industry. So the road models are perfect to put, 28, 30, 32 millimeter tire on and run cyclocross races on them. Our disc brake rims are being molded right now, and our disc brake hubs are being cut right now. So we released a 3D printed model of our disc brake hubs at Interbike, and Bike Rumor did a quick article on them, and we had planned to release them in November, but we've been nitpicking it to death, like engineers like to do.
nice.
And so we're hoping to release them in the next 4 to 6 weeks.
The great thing though is a lot of companies, what I think they make the mistakes doing, and Gunnar, I'm sure you probably can agree, is they just try to be everything to everybody, and they don't do what their niche is. Right? They don't stay in their lane. Now, with your particular wheels, I noticed you guys are touting what is called as an R symmetric hub, and that geometry is unique to your brand. And they're saying,
correct.
You're toting on your website 16.4% stiffer than a leading brand. So like, let's throw out the names. Like you're going up against like a Zip, you're going up against an American Classic, you're going up,
that 16.4% number is over an NV rim with a white industry hub custom build. And that was the next stiffest brand that we tested. We had Zip and Mavic as well. And, we were honestly quite a bit stiffer than that 16.4% number than every other brand, but that custom build was the closest.
Wow. The R symmetric hub. Yeah. I noticed there's a couple other facets about there. It's a one piece adjustable. I was trying to get that from your site.
The whole idea of the design was to take the geometry of the hub, the lacing pattern, spoke tensions, the laminate design of the rim. There's 7 different variables that we programmed into MATLAB, which is a computer programming software. And Sean, our engineer, spent about 2.5 months programming it. We would change the input and let it run through the night. It'd be about an 8-hour runtime. And we get the result the next morning as to how the rim would deflect based on the variables that we put in. And so the whole concept was to find the correct answer to hub geometry. Everyone has different flange spacing, different flange diameters, different lacing patterns. And we knew that it could be seen as an optimization problem, and there is a correct answer to create the stiffest wheel possible. And that's what we wanted to do from a performance standpoint as racers. And that enlarged drive side flange, that R-symmetric flange, essentially pulls the bracing angle wider so you can keep the non-drive spokes wider without dropping spoke tension. So it's a balancing act between widening the bracing angle on the non-drive side without dropping too much spoke tension. And a typical wheel, you'll see 120 kgf tension on the drive side and about 45 on the non-drive side. And we're at 120 and 80. So that balanced spoke tension, because of the increased bracing angle on the drive side, makes for much better lateral stiffness of the rim. And it really started with that. And then everything with the rim and the whole rest of the wheel system expanded out from that design.
Good. How about yourself, man? I've been kind of what do you got for Bobby? Any particular questions?
I just want to hear more about it. I mean, your hubs seem awesome. Are you guys making those hubs in-house?
We're making them in Sarasota at a manufacturer here. We don't own the machine.
Okay.
It's a $700,000 CNC lathe that they're made on, 7-axis lathe. And so we went to 3 different manufacturers, one in Chattanooga, one in Clearwater, and then the one here in Sarasota, saying, hey, when we machine this shell and we machine this axle, we need to hold a 50 millionth of a millimeter tolerance on every surface that touches the bearing. Because if we don't, we're going to crush the outer race and pit the inner race. And 6 months down the road, it's going to feel like your hub's full of sand and you're going to blame it on the rain, when really it's just a poorly tolerant shell with likely a counterfeit bearing pressed in. And it's going to feel terrible. So we need to spec a real bearing, an angular contact bearing that we know isn't counterfeit, and spec the tolerances so that it's not going to compress the balls inside of the bearing. And so many manufacturers would be like, yeah, we can do it. I think we can do it. Let us give it a shot. And we'd get the products back and they would be terrible. So we're at a manufacturer in Sarasota that makes medical supplies, surgical supplies, aerospace parts for Lockheed Martin, and our hubs. And that's pretty much it. And they're awesome. They QC every part as it comes off the lathe with a laser probe on the CMM machine. And the guy has to stand there and manually do it as it comes off in a temperature controlled room to be sure that the tolerances are hit. And it's a process for sure.
Right. Well, and yeah, that is amazing. 'Cause I mean, if you've ever felt, I mean, I've bought cheap wheels in the past that have, that they have sealed cartridge bearing hubs on them and they feel great, for the first, 500 miles. But then they start developing play. And I mean, you get some hubs where you can literally, you take it apart and you can literally pull the cartridge bearing out of the hub shell because the tolerances aren't there. So, I mean, it sounds like you guys are doing an excellent job and with the tight tolerances and using actual spinning bearings and labyrinth seals instead of just doing the cheap, easy way.
Yeah, I mean, typically you'll get a poorly tolerant shell with bushings that are meant to take up that slop. And the bearing will either be crushed or fall, and the outer race will spin inside of the shell. And so it'll feel decent enough in your hands, but as soon as you compress it with the skewer, you're adding 10 to 15 pounds of more, throwing them in a wind tunnel and manipulating the results and feeding that to everyone, which is what everyone gets. And it's interesting. I was talking to a customer the other day about wind tunnel results because I was at Cannondale for a few years as an engineer, and we'd put bikes in the wind tunnel, and maybe they're the best, maybe they're not. Either way, when you hand it off to the marketing team, you're manipulating the the turbulence in the wind tunnel and the specifications and the axes on the graph to make your product look the best. And it's why every company has a product that is better than everyone else's, and it's all their own internal testing. And so we wanted to come out with a wheel system that we could kind of hang our hat on a real problem that was actually solved instead of just redoing the wind tunnel data that everyone's been doing.
I could be wrong, but I do agree with you. I do feel that at one point those tests were relevant. I feel that yes and no. I mean, if you get the stat person, they're down with it, they'll look at that. But I think you're right about the quality of the product speaking for itself, which clearly, Alto Cycling does for sure. In regards, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
The wind.
Yeah, no, please.
Yep. I was going to have one more note on the wind tunnel testing. The more interesting thing about it wasn't any manipulations that a company would do to it, but it was more taking a product that was it was stationary in the tunnel, and you would take that wheel and you'd put it, especially a rear wheel, on the back of a bike with a rider pedaling on it outside in different conditions. And we would constantly try to calculate the conditions that you would see outside. And it was 100% impossible without dramatic simplifications for any engineer to calculate. So even when a product was the best in the wind tunnel, we'd look at it and be like, does it really matter? I was like, because this is completely different than what it's going to be like when the person's actually riding it. And so I always struggled with that. I struggled with the relevance of the results for sure.
Bobby, we talked about this when we were talking about bike specs and what bikes were designed for, certain weight specs and things like that. How large of a rider can be put onto a large frame kind of thing. You know what I mean? But that's very valid, and I think the other thing that goes without saying, as far as being an avid mountain biker, you just can't fix stupid. I mean, I know, Gunnar knows, like, that guy that can break anything. I mean, I remember when the GT iDrive came out, and I was like, man, this thing kicks ass. And I had a guy that was breaking them left and right. I go, what are you doing?
Right.
So, it goes without saying, but that's a whole other conversation. Dan's been chomping a bit to get a question answered. So what's the most popular selling item at Alto right now? As far as across the board, I guess, is that question, Dan. Hopefully I got that right.
I would say it's a tie between the CC40 and CC56 sets, which are dramatically better, our best sellers. I would say about 80% of our total sales are those two sets. And, the 40 and, carbon clinchers, the manufacturing has come a really long way. We're using expanded polystyrene molding. So you get really, really uniform wall thicknesses with a really high glass temperature resin. So there's really no need to worry about carbon clincher failures anymore, even in the big mountains. And so people are running carbon clinchers for training and racing, and it's just one set on their bike, and it's become super popular. So the old school, only training on an alloy and only racing on tubulars is kind of starting to go by the wayside. And and those two sets of carbon clinchers have been super popular.
A lot of the audience maybe watching now or tuning in the replay, that has always been, from the mountain bike perspective, it's like, oh, I've got my training wheels and then I've got my carbon racing wheels. And I agreed with that, but I disagreed with that because I think the way you're saying is, I think it's asinine to be out there training on, wheels that you're not going to be racing on and then racing. I mean, yes, carbon's lighter and, there's obviously a number of, benefits because of it. But I think it sounds to me that the technology you have, it without question, just with the testing alone, the quality is probably bar none. So, I mean, the likelihood of there being any issues, are less likely. Now,
I think people did it so that they could train on heavy equipment and race on light equipment. But the risk, though, I think dramatically outweighs that reward. And the risk being taking your race set and throwing it on and having the cassette spacing be a little bit off, or having the brake pads not line up with the brake track perfectly, and having to make those little adjustments, and then getting into the race and your bike doesn't shift properly. We had that happen with race wheels on our team way more often than I ever thought. Oh man, I wish I would have trained on heavier wheels so that I would feel faster today. That was probably never the case.
Right. Well, and I have read that it is just a feeling. I mean, it's just that they feel lighter. I mean, if you're fit and you're strong, that strength is going to come through. But that whole feeling of, okay, well, my wheels are lighter today because they're race wheels versus a slightly heavier wheel set. I think, like you said, the trade-off isn't necessarily beneficial. I mean, unless you're race. I think that's too where to your credit, as the technology gets there and it is more durable, because too back in the day you would have race wheels because they were kind of fragile too, and so you didn't want to you didn't want to destroy your carbon zips because they would get destroyed. So you would save them for race day. Nowadays, you can potentially use them for training and racing and not have to worry about them as much.
How are you tonight, my friend?
Fantastic. Thanks for letting me jump on here.
Please do.
I'm probably not the typical customer of a company like Alto, but I really, really enjoy looking at the products you guys have going here. And it looks like you guys are mostly on the East Coast for dealer wise. So the only other question I have is what are you guys' expansion plans about getting into more dealers, maybe like up our way in the Midwest or?
Yeah, as quickly as possible. I mean, obviously we have only been selling for about 8 months. We've been in R&D since 2012, and so it's about a 3-year process to get the products to where they are, to find an investor who's our third partner, and then to make the brand launch. And so, really, the first big foray into the dealer world was Interbike. It was our first expo that we did, and the response was awesome. People were really happy to see a company with real engineering coming out with new products made in the U.S. For the first time, probably since Envy did it. And so we got a big response from Interbike, and we're slowly creeping, across the country as more people begin to recognize the name.
Because
but for sure,
it seems like
very
most
small brand.
cycling companies have gone the other way. Like I think I'm horrible with this, but Mossy. Yeah, didn't they go
Mossy.
from it was
the frame
Italian
company
originally to now it's strictly all being manufactured overseas in Japan, I think? Or?
I believe it was. I mean, it's a very old brand, and the original Mossy brand was Italian, and they made a lot of steel bikes. I believe the name was purchased by a completely separate entity out of California, and they're producing their carbon frames probably in Taiwan and China.
All right, well, I'll drop off here.
Yeah.
Awesome, Dan.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you guys.
Cool.
Well,
Nice
I know
to meet
the other
you.
two. Pleasure to meet Alto Cycling. What's your name again? Bobby.
Thanks for coming on.
That's Gunner.
Bobby, very nice to meet you. Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, big shout out to my good friend Jojo Keys in the house. Hey man, he's awesome. Good buddy of mine. He's a Rochester, New York inhabitant. Gave me some really helpful tips on Twitter a while back, and has got a lot of music stuff going on, more than I can even take into account in one sitting. But does an open off the air blab show if you guys want to take a chat and see him. Folks, right now you're tuning in to Bike Chat. Jonah DePasquale, your host with co-host Gunnar Soros. We're here every Thursday at 9 p.m. Standard Time. And this week's guest is Bobby Sweeting from Alto Cycling in Sarasota, Florida. So excited about the Made in USA thing. You have no idea. That is just such a great story, considering how so many people are poo-pooing the American economy, saying, every part and component is going overseas. We're getting close to the top of the hour, and I want to be respectful of the time. We certainly can kind of keep this going, Bobby. My two quick things. One of them is I noticed that you're just primarily in road and gravel and things like that. Do you have any plans to kind of move into the mountain world? Are we going to see like a 29er wheel, a 36er for our good friends from 36er? I'm sure they'd like to see. I'm sure they no, but seriously though, I mean, I think those are kind of the last couple.
Yeah.
Of I have. I mean, are you seeing
36er? Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, right now, obviously the road and rim brake cross, our disc brake road and cross wheels coming out soon. Right now, being manufactured alongside of those is our disc wheel for triathlon and time trials, rear disc wheels. And we're designing the mountain bike products right now. So we're looking at likely a late summer launch, just in time for Interbike for our mountain bike stuff. But it'll be a complete line. It's going to follow suit with our cross hubs, where we'll be one of the only brands to do a hub with every single axle specification. So when you get a set of our cross wheels or a set of our mountain bike wheels, and you're looking at 12 mil, 15 mil axles, quick release through axles, 135, 142 dropout spacing. If you upgrade your frame to be a different spec, you can change the axle and use the exact same wheel set. And that's, it goes along with a lot of the things we've done with the arsometric design. Sean kind of recognized the problem in the industry that everyone's sort of ignoring, usually because it's very difficult in terms of design and manufacturing, and addressed it. And that's always the direction we're going to try to go. So that's what we've seen in mountain bike and cross with disc brakes specifically, was the sheer amount of specs that are out there, and trying to accommodate one wheel set for all those specs. So that's the plan for mountain bike for sure. Yeah.
Right. Well, not to throw another wrench in at it, but what about fat bikes? Now, I don't have a fat bike yet, but I know that it's getting big, and I know that some of the fat bike racers are really into carbon wheels, and they get just as tricked out as the
right now
guys, so,
we've had recently a lot of demand for track wheels, so we're probably going to start looking into doing a track set first. We haven't done any research into fat bike wheels or seen any sort of problems that we want to address, but I'm sure as soon as we delve a little bit deeper into that, something will crop up. But really, whether it's fat bike wheels or components or frames or whatever it is we do over the next 10 years, it's just going to be it's going to be about addressing a problem that we can, like I said, hang our hat on and say, this is why we did this product. And if we come across something with fat bike wheels where we can do a similar thing like the arsometric design, then for sure, I don't see a reason why we wouldn't.
Trick question, and
right.
You being a Cannondale alum, you can answer this question. Are you
excellent?
Are your wheels lefty compatible? With the Cannondale? No.
The mountain bike.
Because the reason is I asked this is that notice Cannondale has introduced their slate, which the slate is very hot, by the way. Folks, do some research on that. Is probably without question one of the most sought after bikes this season as far as gravel category goes. At any rate, can you build a front wheel for that?
Yes, we can. We have not designed it, and we don't have any plans to right now. But I mean, those guys are awesome, and the product managers I'm still fairly close with. And if they called me tomorrow and said we want to spec a lefty Alto wheel, or offer it as an aftermarket part, for sure we would do it. And that's the cool part of kind of having all the engineering and design work in-house and being so close with our manufacturers, is that we can we can accommodate things like that fairly quickly,
you had mentioned Envy,
which is
same
always nice.
Folks, if you guys haven't had a chance to take a peek at those guys, they're
Mm-hmm.
doing some great things. But same conversation. I mean, I watched, I watched that
Yeah.
company come out of nowhere and really make a pretty significant impact to the point where all of a sudden you see, kind of the big boys specking their products. I mean, I would say, Bobby, without question, I mean, you guys are definitely headed that way, because I think to Gunner's point, I mean, consumers are sick of buying crap. I mean, they're sick of looking at a bike, road bike or mountain bike. Let's say the sweet spot. You've been in retail, guys. Let's say, the $2,500 to the $3,500, road whip, and what happens, especially in multi-sport. What's the first thing they look at or start punching holes in is the wheel set. And I think now companies have realized they can't cobble a bike together and go, oh well, you could up, the shop could sell you these Zoot wheels, aftermarket. Dude, the employees don't have time for it. The bike shop owners don't want to stock extra wheels. I mean, they want, a bike with decent quality components. Now, the other side of that coin is certainly for the upgrading folks that have to geek out and tech their bikes out.
Right.
There's a good opportunity that you're going to get a lot of business there. I think that, a lot of people that are seeking good quality wheels, that's always typically one of those upgrades, as that can make a significant difference in improving your bike, are the wheel sets. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of good opportunity, and I do think you're heading in the right direction, as you mentioned, by keeping it in the U.S., by scaling it at a point where you can keep it controllable. And I think it's just going to be a matter of time where, man, you guys are on the corner, and it's going to be like, man, you're going to be the next best thing.
Well, I appreciate it, and that was really one of the reasons for starting the brand. When Sean and I, we were college roommates, and we'd finish a training ride and look at all these different aspects of our own bikes, change or update, or just kind of ask questions about. And when I left Cannondale and when Sean graduated with his master's, it was within the same month, and we looked at all these different ideas and we're like, which one's going to make the biggest difference to the end user? And when we looked at the wheel industry, it's like, man, for the last 7-8 years, there's been 25 brands that have cropped up just that I could think of that all have the same products. They're buying, Gigantex rims and Bitex hubs and putting their name on it. And it's like $150, and you start your wheel brand tomorrow and sell it for $1,000. And there's certainly a market for it. People will always want to have an inexpensive carbon clincher offering, and their price points that we won't be able to hit. But from a design and engineering standpoint, it was like, it was kind of offensive, to be honest with you. I couldn't understand why the most beneficial upgrade to a bike, being wheels, was also the industry that was kind of the most bastardized when it came to design and innovation. And so that was the whole purpose of the brand, really, and why we wanted to do this, because it had been way too long. And I think, like you said, the consumers and the riders everyone's starting to realize what's happening, and there was a big hole in the market for someone to come along and do something real, and that's where we're hoping to step in.
Nice.
Yeah.
No, I think that's a lot of that's a lot of the necessity that creates these types of startup companies, and I think that I definitely think that the cycling community wants this. I mean, it's clearly proven in a lot of things that we do in our culture. Premium beer, premium coffee. It's like premium shoes. Fancy denim. I don't know.
I live in Asheville, man. Asheville, North Carolina is beer and coffee and food, all local craft. I mean, that's it. Right. So cycling goes right along with that.
Yeah,
excellent.
So, it's excellent. All right, well, that is the top of the hour, Gunner. I turn it back over to you. I don't know if you had any closing comments or other questions for our folks out there in Blabland.
I don't have any other questions for Bobby. Although, well, I guess one last little question. Your aluminum wheel sets, are you producing those rims also yourself, or are those I don't know?
Yeah, Yeah, we have the tooling for that's in Taiwan right now, and we are actually bringing that over to Florida in the next couple of weeks,
Nice.
and working with Velocity to manufacture them in Jacksonville.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
And so we looked into doing our composite rims here in Florida. We actually got a quote back 2 weeks ago on the disc wheel. Without going into the numbers, I will say it was a 15-to-1 difference in cost between Florida and Taiwan, with the quality in Taiwan likely being a lot better because of the molding technique. If I could keep the quality the same and keep the price relatively close, I would bring it to the U.S. and do everything 100% made here. But I was too worried about a drop in quality to do that with our composite rims.
Right.
And but the alloy and the metalworking, we're going to have 100% here in Florida. So those wheels will be completely made in the U.S.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Wow.
it makes sense. Awesome. Well, actually, I do one note on Bike Chat. As I said, this evening's session is with our folks from Alto Cycling. Check them out online at altocycling.com. You can find them on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and a plethora of other social platforms. So this next Bike Chat coming up, we will be featuring the folks from Squid Bikes. Very exciting. I don't know if you have ever heard of Anthony Clark, but Anthony Clark just had started up a GoFundMe, I believe it was campaign, to get enough money to go over and race Worlds, which is pretty exciting. So we'll be meeting and chatting with the folks from Squid Bikes next week on Bike Chat. And again, that's 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Definitely want to check this out. But there is something even more exciting. Bobby, what are you doing? Before I turn this over to Gunnar, what are you doing on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m.?
On Tuesday nights at 9 p.m., I'm going to tune in to the craft beer blab.
Perfect.
Excellent.
So Gunnar,
I haven't seen it before, but now, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it because I'm no beer expert, but I feel like I have to be because of just being in Asheville. So I hope I learned something.
Right. Oh, I'm sure you will learn something. You'll probably teach us something too, because I'm no expert.
Maybe pouring a beer. I know.
Yeah.
I know Eric's going to chime in and say maybe pouring Jonah a beer. I don't know.
Exactly.
I was giving you props. There you go. You heard me say that.
And Dan brings up a good point. So next week's show, I put the link in the chat there. But we're going to be doing a 40-ounce party. So I know that, yeah, Old English, Colt 45, Mickey's. I don't know what you'll be bringing to the table, Jonah, but make sure it's a 40-ounce.
Those are some good ones. Brown paper bag, baby.
Right.
we gotta have the unveiling.
Right. We'll unveil it.
All
We'll
right.
pour it. We'll drink it. We'll do an actual review too. I want to actually kind of give an actual review because we kind of I don't want to say we badmouth crap beer, but we do kind of. So to actually kind of be objective and say, okay, I get I don't know, it tastes like gasoline or it tastes like a wonderful bouquet of hops, whatever it is, we can honestly say something about it.
I'm going nuts. I think I'm gonna mix a little brass monkey on the show, dude. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going over the monitor, dude. So
right.
all of a sudden you start seeing me you start seeing me do this. That's a game over.
Right.
All right.
Well, then we'll have to bring up that article again on hangovers and riding the next day. So.
I'll be like rocking the elixir while I'm doing that.
Right. Yeah.
Taking like Tums or something.
Right.
All right. Let's wrap this show up, folks. Thanks so much for tuning in. I got a little loose on the end there, but we're grateful for our guest once again, Bobby Sweeting from Alto.
Thanks, guys.
Bobby, thank you so much for joining us again, folks. Please give them a follow on a number of social platforms. You can find them at altocycling.com. The next time you're looking to upgrade your whip, your bike, your time trial buggy, whatever you want to call it, with the best quality wheel sets made and designed in USA. You cannot beat that. Gunnar, can I get an amen?
Amen.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. I'm going to take us off the air.